Welcome to the Transform Wellness Education Series. My name is Pete Wisniewski, and I'll be your host through these webinars, study groups, and live seminars as we explore the stress response. TransformWellness.org is a national organization consisting of amazing world-renowned speakers with decades of experience in both patient care and teaching professionals to understand and apply functional medicine in a healthcare practice. Our group of educators has expertise in a diverse subset of functional medicine, including endocrine balance, natural cardiovascular support, natural fertility and preconception planning, practice management, Western herbs, and whole food nutrition. We welcome you to join the hundreds of practitioners, including acupuncturists, chiropractors, medical doctors, nutritionists, napropaths, naturopaths, and allied healthcare professionals in understanding how the body becomes healthy over time. We begin our first webinar with Dr. Bill Hemmer, who has treated patients for over 26 years. Since transforming his practice as of June 6, 2015, has increased his yearly cash collections trend by more than 32%, or over $150,000 during this time. This is all done in a small farm community of just 4,500 people. He can't wait to share what he's been doing and how he's been doing it. Now, please be aware that he will answer a select number of questions at the end of this webinar. Simply type your question in the chat window, and we will do our best to answer them in the time allotted. Without further ado, I'll now turn it over to Dr. Hemmer.
This is Dr. Bill Hemmer. I'm so excited to share with you what I've been doing over the last 15 months. I used to give patients protocols and hope and pray that they would follow through and feel better, but I didn't have an objective way to measure their progress. How could I tell if they were holding up their end of the bargain when it came to their protocols? This webinar is an overview of how I broke out of that mold for good. Now I use functional medicine to be confident, competent, and consistent in every aspect of my patient care. And I will share with you the framework I use every day to transition patients from sickness care to health care. And believe you me, functional medicine is certainly getting noticed in the allopathic world. I have a patient right now who is taking all of this information to their allopathic physician and who is very interested in having a meeting with me on what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So stay tuned for a special offer at the end of this webinar so you can get started using this work immediately. So let's get started. A recent Supreme Court ruling further solidified that sickness care will continue to dominate the medical insurance practice. I don't know about everybody else, but I am not looking forward to ICD-10 codes. I'm not looking forward to being chained to my desk filling out notes for the next 15 to 20 years. I am not looking forward to being denied reimbursement because of the loopholes that all of these new systems that we really don't know what is going on with anyway is going to allow them to not pay us what we're worth. And I am really not looking forward to treating disease states instead of patients. I look at my patients as healthy individuals that have an issue, not as a disease state. I am ready to break free from this whole sickness care chain. And how's sickness care been working for you already? How are you been spending more time and hours and making less money? Are your patients pigeonholing your care and any idea what you can actually do for them? Are you actually getting to practice the way you want? Can you take the time off you deserve and continue to produce the income necessary for you, your family, and your future? And then finally, do you have a long-term strategy in place that will provide you with what you want for your family, for your legacy? Sickness care will never provide that for you. Sickness care is dying a slow death because the higher deductibles and the copays that patients are paying, they know that things aren't right, but they don't know what alternatives are available to them yet. And even though billions of dollars are being spent by Big Pharma to promote sickness care, it continues to lose momentum because people understand that they are not just a disease state. They are a full human being that have all of these other issues that nobody is looking at in a global way. So that is our job, is to say, wait a minute, let's look at the big picture. Let's look and get you healthy so that you don't have to worry about getting sick. And your patients know they need to change their approach to health, but they don't understand that you are the alternative. I've had enough. How about you? I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on seminars and gadgets, but now I have a way to work towards health. And I'm implementing a true healthcare model. And if you are ready to demand the improvement in yourself, in your practice, and in your community, you are in the right place because this is exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it. So, how do we do that? How do we break free from the sickness care? We used evidence-based patient care. And so what the hallmark of the evidence-based patient care is 90-day cycles. Because what that does is it allows you to position yourself as a real alternative to sickness care. We address health, not sickness. And so that changes the entire position. And so this webinar is designed to help you look and understand the 90-day cycles, the three phases of care, and so that then you can start to use this transformation in your own practice. So the 90-day cycle is really broken up into four different visits. The first visit is the baseline assessment visit where you're going to look at five different evidence-based criteria. You're looking at their survey, you're looking at in-office measurements, you're looking at functional capacity, you're looking at lifestyle behaviors, and you're looking at lab values. All five of these things are then looked at and objectified, and that is the baseline visit. So in the next 30 days, the second visit is a follow-up visit where you're going to just briefly look over some of these objective measures that you saw in the day one visit. Then the same thing happens on day 60, and then finally on day 90, you do an entire reassessment of all the baseline values that you did on day one. And then you say, okay, here is the objective change that we have seen in your survey, in your lifestyle behaviors, in your in-office measurements, in your dietary intake, and in your lab values. And now let's see where you're at in the big picture in the three different phases. And so this introductory webinar is designed to give you a baseline knowledge of all of these different things. But first, you need to understand why 90-day cycles. It allows you to manage expectations. It is a proven research-based time frame. The best way to think about it is the hemoglobin A1C. So in 90 days, you will definitely see changes in the hemoglobin A1C test. And people start to understand that once you start to make changes, you have to be able to objectify them. The third reason is that it uses the same language as the sickness model to increase communication. So people understand that they want to have changes in their lab values. They want to have changes in their weight. They want to have changes in their blood pressure, all of these different things. And so you have to understand that that's where they're coming from. They understand from the sickness care model that you need to make these changes. So by doing 90-day cycles and say, okay, in 3 months, we're going to change this, and then we're going to see what kind of changes here, and we're going to see what kind of changes here, it makes perfect sense to them. And then the fourth reason is that it provides enough time for behavior change and then allows enough time for spaced repetition learning. Because the only way that you are going to change behavior long term is through spaced repetition, the same thing, the same way, over and over 6, 8, 10, 12 times. So you're touching them every 30 days at a minimum to get their lifestyle to change so that then this becomes their new behavior over time. Because I tell my patient right up front, I'll say, I don't want you to have to come in here all the time. I want to teach you what you need to know so you can make your own healthcare decisions based on your knowledge. And so my job then becomes, if there's an issue that you need to deal with, you come talk to me about it. But autonomy creates motivation. And once they become motivated, then you've got a patient for life. So there's three different phases to health restoration. The first phase is you must reduce the stress. The second phase is you rebuild the glands that allow you to increase your ability to handle stress. And then the final phase is you stimulate the glands of stress so that now you can turn around and get the aesthetic changes that you want. So in phase one, there's so many carbohydrate and food intolerances, it is at its highest level. And your fat metabolism and muscle mass are at its lowest level. Phase one is really designed to increase your digestive health, increase your ability to manage your blood sugar effectively, and to start to reduce a lot of the negative inputs during that first phase. Then once you get into phase two, you start to rebuild the glands so they're digesting their food better. You start to stimulate the liver, the pancreas, and the adrenal glands to help to rebuild those glands to help them have the ability to increase fat metabolism and increase their lean muscle mass. And then finally in stage three, then that is when most of the detoxification occurs and most of the aesthetic changes occur. In phase one, we're going to reduce negative stressors. We're going to recondition the gut. We're going to take the burden off the blood sugar handling mechanism, and we're going to start positive lifestyle behavior changes. They could be literally in phase one for 90 days, 180 days, 270 days. They could be in phase one for an extremely long time based on how much stress they had on them in the first place, based on their entire allostatic load, which we'll get to in a little while. But if they're in an extremely compromised and tired position, phase one is usually the longest because they have had all of this decompensation going on. They know they're not healthy. They know there's trouble, but they have nobody who is helping them get through it. So the checklist in phase one is gut reconditioning diet. They're going to be taking a lot of digestive supplements. You're going to introduce a nutrient dense smoothie into their program. They're going to start with very simple stretching, mobility exercises. They're going to start a recovery plan that is based on getting rid of some of the external stressors that they have that they can start to modify immediately. And we're going to reduce negative interactions in their situation as much as possible right off the bat. Then once you get into phase two, you're going to start to rebuild the glands. You're going to support the most tired and injured glands and organs with nutrient-dense foods and supplements. But like I said, we're going to focus specifically on the liver, the adrenals, and the pancreas triad because those are the three glands that have been shown over and over again to have just been decimated through the stress handling mechanism. So now we have to rebuild those three glands specifically and really make sure that they start to rebuild themselves because unless you have those three things in place, you will never be able to get to phase three and start to really increase your fat metabolism and increase your lean muscle mass. So in the phase two checklist, of course, you're going to be starting your glandular supplements. You're going to increase the bile producing foods so that now they're actually starting to digest fats more effectively. You're going to start weight bearing exercises and cardiovascular exercise. And then you're going to start talking to them about ketosis and start the ketogenic diet so that now they're starting to liberate some of the adipose tissue and liberate some of the fat out of the adipose tissue. And so then they start to see the aesthetic changes that they really want. They're also going to improve their sleep between midnight and 3 a.m. because that is the time when the liver is most active. That's when you burn the most fat and detoxify most effectively. So, in phase three, you're going to rebuild organs to handle the additional stress of stimulation. And this is the safest time to start to detoxify because you have the increase in nutrient density and energy. This is the time where they start to see the aesthetic changes. They decrease their waistline. They start to get rid of their muffin top. This is the time where they start to feel like, oh my gosh, this is really working for me. If you manage expectations all the way through phase one, phase two, and phase three, perfect example is I have a gal right now that I've been working with, and she's at 180 days, and she's finally starting to see some fat loss. She's finally starting to see some of the aesthetic changes, but it has taken us this long to get her to that stage. But she understands that that's where she's at because we have managed expectations the entire time. And so now she's like, oh my gosh, this is really what I've been waiting for. And this is something that I can do consistently because now I've changed my lifestyle and I will never go back to where I was before. That's the kind of patients that we all want in our practice every day. So the checklist for phase 3 is you start your stimulatory herbs, they start the high intensity exercises, they detoxify. The carbohydrate intake is very low because now you're in ketosis for weight loss. And then finally, you gather your data to add to your marketing campaign, because once the objective data is put in place, then that becomes your marketing campaign. There is nobody that can take objective data away from you, because it is not your data, it is the data that you've collected on your patients. It's not just your ideas anymore or what you say, it is the specific evidence-based data that you've collected over the last 90 days, 180 days, 270 days, that allow you to say, oh, I've had patients who have lost this much weight, had this much energy increase, and their cholesterol has gone down this much, and their A1C has gone down this much. There's your marketing campaign. It makes it so simple. So, and how many 90-day cycles do you need? There again, it really depends on what the allostatic load was in the beginning. If they are high on the allostatic load index, if they're in stage 2 or stage 3, it might take 1, 2, 3 90-day cycles to get them out of phase 1. If they're lower on the allostatic load curve, stage 1, stage 2, they might blow through phase 1 in 90 days, phase 2 in 90 days, phase 3 in 90 days. So it really depends on where they're at with the total allostatic load that they are carrying right now. And so that's why the first assessment, the initial assessment, is so important, because then that helps you to manage expectations in the future. So the 5 different criteria and the 5 different measurements that you're going to take: the survey, the in-office measurement, the dietary intake, the physical capacity, and the lab values. And then those 5 criteria then are put into the program that allows you to measure the total allostatic load on that patient. In this example right now, this patient is 36% over ideal. So in other words, they're in stage 1. So the likelihood of them going through all 3 phases of care in a shorter period of time is much higher. So this allows you to manage expectations much more effectively. The higher they're up, stage 2, stage 3, longer time it's going to take for them to get through phase 1, go through phase 2, and then get finally into phase 3. So this gives you an overall idea of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And all of this is done using objective data in your office. This is where true health care is going. 90-day cycles, 3 phases of health restoration, all being driven by where they are at with objective evidence-based measures, measuring allostatic load. So with that, I hope that you will listen and learn and become part of our tribe.
Thanks for that talk, Dr. Hemmer. Now, everybody, let's take a moment to go through a special offer from Dr. Bill Hemmer. What does the doctor of the future look like? They have financial freedom, plenty of money to take care of themselves, their family, and their future. They have personal freedom. They work when they want and delegate everything they don't like to someone else. And finally, they help the most people with the least amount of personal effort. They have created automated systems to be the thought leader while retaining personal autonomy. Dr. Bill Hemmer offers a free 15-minute discovery consultation to access your current practice situation. During this complimentary consultation, you will see if you are ready to move forward towards integrating this 21st century style of practice right now, and if you're willing and able to do what it takes to embrace this opportunity. If you are interested, go to www.speaktodrbill.com and sign up for your free 15-minute consultation. Thank you for watching Dr. Bill Hemmer provide insight into running a cash-based wellness program utilizing 90-day intervention cycles and the phases of care. Please join us for the next webinar on August 11th with Dr. Annette Schipple in her presentation, It's Just a Little Sugar, Problems Created from Having Just a Little Sugar, where she will highlight the relationship between the adrenals, pancreas, liver, and muscle tissue for maintaining healthy blood sugar balance.